Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. And we're going to start with a terrifying hypothetical scenario set on a 2026 cruise ship. Honestly, this feels straight out of an anime thriller. Just picture this for a second. You've got this luxury vessel sailing down towards the remote islands of the South Atlantic and Antarctica. People are socializing, enjoying parties, completely unaware that their absolute dream vacation is about to morph into a living nightmare. Because what started as a totally standard voyage quickly became a desperate battle against a completely invisible, deadly pathogen. And things unraveled incredibly fast. On April 1st, the ship departs Ushuaia in Argentina. Just a few days in, a 7-year-old Dutch passenger develops a mild fever, a headache, some diarrhea. It seems pretty routine, right? Like maybe just a bad case of food poisoning. But he quickly starts struggling to breathe. And shockingly, by April 11th, he actually dies on the ship. The tragedy just keeps unfolding as the ship drops his body at St. Helena on April 24th, which is where his wife disembarks. She flies to South Africa, collapses at the airport before her flight back to Amsterdam, and dies on April 26th. By May 2nd, with more and more passengers falling ill and dying, the World Health Organization is officially called in. So we are talking about 150 passengers and crew from 23 different countries, literally trapped out at sea with an invisible killer. And for weeks, the passengers, just hanging out and socializing on board, had no idea what they were even dealing with. Global ports were flat out refusing them entry. It wasn't until the tests were finally conducted after the WHO stepped in that the terrifying diagnosis was actually revealed to the world. That diagnosis, it was hantavirus. This is a pathogen that carries a staggering mortality rate of up to 50%. Literally a coin flip. And this is a virus for which there are absolutely zero FDA or WHO-approved vaccines and no known cures. Half of the people who get severely infected could die, which is exactly why this ghost ship scenario captured global headlines. Section 1. Unmasking the Hantavirus Samurai. So stepping back from the intense suspense of our ghost ship, let's look at the hard biology here. Because honestly, the most frightening part? This isn't some novel, brand new microscopic monster. Scientists have actually known about this specific threat for 70 years, and it still remains one of the most dangerous viruses on the planet. History really shows us just how long we've been battling this. Back in the 1950s, during the Korean War, over 3,000 American and UN soldiers suddenly fell ill with what they were calling Korean hemorrhagic fever. About 15% of them died. It took 30 years to solve that medical mystery. It wasn't until 1980 that a South Korean virologist named Dr. Ho Wong Lee finally isolated the virus from rodents, naming it after the nearby Hunton River. Later on, we saw a sudden, deadly spike in 1993 in the American Southwest among the Navajo Nation, and a totally game-changing outbreak in Argentina in 1996. Here's the really crucial point, though. This isn't just one single virus. It's a whole family of viruses carried by different types of rodents, and it triggers two very distinct, devastating medical syndromes depending on your hemisphere. In Asia and Europe, it causes HFRS, which aggressively attacks the kidneys and causes severe internal bleeding. But over in the Americas, it causes HPS, which rapidly fills the lungs with fluid, tragically leading to suffocation. Section 2. The mechanics of spread. So how exactly does this deadly pathogen move from nature into the human bloodstream? To really understand the science of this spillover, we have to look at this brilliant piece of historical detective work that merged modern science with ancient wisdom. During that 1993 outbreak in the US, young, perfectly healthy people were dying rapidly with a horrifying 75% initial mortality rate. Scientists were totally stumped. That is, until Navajo tribal elders shared an incredible observation. They noted that heavy rain brings bumper pine nuts, fueling mouse populations and spreading the disease. And this observation, it just brilliantly illustrates the ecological mechanics of how this thing spreads. It's essentially a massive chain reaction. When a major climate event hits, like the massive 1991-1992 El Niño, it brings unusually heavy rainfall. That extra rain yields a massive bumper crop of nuts, which then directly fuels an explosion in the rodent population. The more rodents there are scurrying around, the higher the statistical chance of viral spillover into human populations. The environment and the virus are just deeply, deeply interconnected. Now, you might be thinking this is just a Western issue, but we have to remember it absolutely is not. For a long time, scientists actually thought hantavirus wasn't present in India. But a major study between 2005 and 2008 in Tamil Nadu's Vellore district proved them wrong. They found 28 confirmed cases, specifically targeting high-risk groups like warehouse workers and the Urla tribe, who work really closely as rat catchers. And shockingly, they found that roughly 4% of the general population already carried antibodies. That means the virus had just been quietly spreading in the background all along. But let's jump back to 1996 for a second, because this is where everything we thought we knew got flipped completely upside down. The Andes strain, which was discovered during an outbreak in southern Argentina, entirely shattered the long-held scientific assumption that hantavirus only ever jumps directly from rat to human. This specific strain proved that the virus was capable of something a whole lot more sinister. Because the Andes strain can actually transmit from human to human, it forces us to ask a really provocative question. Is hantavirus the next pandemic? I mean, with a 50% mortality rate and human-to-human transmission capabilities, it kind of sounds like the perfect recipe for a global catastrophe, doesn't it? Well, you can actually breathe a sigh of relief here, all because of a single number: 1. The Andes strain has an incredibly narrow human-to-human transmission window of just one single day, right at the very, very start of the illness. After that 24-hour window closes, the ability for the infected person to pass the virus on to someone else drops dramatically. So when we look at the transmission realities side by side, hantavirus is absolutely nothing like COVID-19 or the flu. It's just not airborne. You don't need massive 14-day global quarantines to stop it. The Andes strain of hantavirus requires intense, close-quarters physical contact. We're talking things like sharing a bed, prolonged physical proximity, or coming into direct contact with bodily fluids. And because of that super high barrier to transmission, a global pandemic is really highly unlikely. Okay, so how did it get on our ghost ship? This ties the science perfectly back to our hook at the beginning. It turns out, back in March 2026, that Dutch couple went on a bird-watching shore excursion in Ushuaia and ended up walking straight through a rat-infested landfill. The truly tragic timing of it all is that they contracted the Andes strain and then boarded that crowded cruise ship exactly within that one-day transmission window. And that is what triggered the localized human-to-human outbreak at sea. Section 3. The Science of Prevention. Now that we actually understand how this virus operates, let's talk about mastery and empowerment. Because knowledge is power, and knowing how to stop the spread before it starts is 100% your best defense. First off, we have to accept the stark medical reality. There is no FDA or WHO-approved vaccine, there's no proven antiviral treatment. If you get infected, modern medicine can really only provide supportive care to help ease your symptoms. Ultimately, your survival relies entirely on your own immune system fighting it off. And because of that, preventing that initial contact with rodent carriers is quite literally a matter of life and death. So what can you actually do today? Thankfully, there is a highly actionable science-based defense protocol we can all follow. Step 1, seal up all structural gaps in your home. Literally do not give rodents away inside. Step 2, if you're cleaning out a dusty storage room, an old warehouse, or some abandoned space, you absolutely need to wear an N95 mask and gloves. And step 3, maintain strict hygiene. Secure all of your food waste so you aren't actively attracting the primary carriers of this virus right to your living space. Because look, in a world without a cure, awareness literally is your ultimate vaccine. We really need to reframe this pathogen. It's not some uncontrollable monster lurking in the shadows. It is a silent, decades-old threat that operates by very specific rules of transmission. And once you know the rules, you can easily defeat the threat with just structured awareness and basic hygiene. So, I want to leave you with this final critical thought. Now that you understand the deep history, the ecological triggers, and the actual mechanics of the spread, how will you secure your environment against the next spillover? Stay vigilant, apply these prevention protocols, and use this knowledge to keep your spaces safe. Thanks for exploring this